Premier Sports Talk. I am your host, Randy Prentice. Hey, it's raining. These blessings are coming down. So I'm going to go ahead on and press forward and do what I got to do. There was a little flickering of a power outage, and then when I went to click to go live, it said it was unavailable. So I just want to make sure that I still stay consistent and still press on. Before I go any further, for every one of you that's subscribed, I've now reached over 100 subscribers. And without your help and your support, I wouldn't have been able to reach that first key milestone. So I want to thank each and every one of you for subscribing. And I ask that you're not able to watch it live, that you tap in and make comments in here. Hit the like button for me, help the channel grow, share it with somebody. Okay? So without further ado, before it starts pouring down raining, I want to go ahead on and kick this off. Again, I'm your host, Randy Prentice of Premier Sports Talk. I go live on Mondays and Fridays at 7 p.m. The topics I'm going to be covering is the NBA, some latest contracts, some latest arrests that occurred within the NBA. I'm going to go over discuss the NFL Hall of Famer inductees that occurred that occurred over the weekend. I'm going to discuss some NFL key holdouts that's still ongoing. And then last but not least, I want to talk about what's the hottest topic on within the NFL, and ESPN's covering it, is of all teams, the Cleveland Browns quarterback. They want to call it a competition, but it really ain't a competition. Okay? As far as the NBA contracts go, we have who we got here? Luka Doncic of the Los Angeles Lakers. He just signed a 3-year, $168 million deal. How about that? 3 years, $168 million deal. They're definitely trying to keep Luka, because I really believe this is LeBron James' last year that he's going to play. This will be his 23rd year in the league, and that man is one hell of a physical specimen. I really commend him. Who else do we got a large contract for? The New York Knicks, Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges signed a 4-year, $150 million deal. 4-year, $150 million deal. Luka, 3-year, $168 million deal for bouncing the basketball. That's a beautiful thing. I don't know about you, that's a beautiful thing. Next is what's going on. Oh, Gilbert Arenas, if you haven't caught it, with no longer playing currently, but he's a well-known guard within the NBA. He's under federal investigation for, I think they said 2021 to 2023. He had an illegal gambling operation running out of one of his properties, not the one that he's currently living in now. He had another property, and he's caught up on those charges. All I can do is wish the best for him, but it looks like he's really caught. So that's what we got on the NBA. As far as the NFL Hall of Fame go, I want to honor those that got inducted into the Hall of Fame. We have Eric Allen, who played for the Los Angeles Raiders, played cornerback. We have Antonio Gates, tight end, that played for the San Diego Chargers. We have Jared Allen, the main team that we remember him for, defensive end, or defensive lineman, should I say, because he played various positions on the defensive line, is the Minnesota Vikings. He played with like 3 other teams outside of them. I think he ended and retired with the North Carolina Panthers. I'm sorry, I got tongue twisted there. But he got inducted to the Hall of Fame under the Minnesota Vikings. And then last but not least, we have Sterling Sharp, Shannon Sharp's brother, wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers. He got inducted to the Hall of Fame. That's truly an honor. He has a piece of immortality because he's being Canton, and his family can see him with that statue inside of the Canton Hall of Fame up in Ohio for generations to come. What else do I got here? Key holdouts that's still going on within the NFL. We still got Trey Hendricks for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's still holding out. He's currently on a 15 million, it's 15.8, I believe, contract. He's still holding out. He reported back to camp because he didn't want to get that $50,000 a day fine for not being in training camp. He reported to training camp, but he's not participating. You know, we just had T.J. Watts, who just signed a 3-year. Where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? T.J. Watts. He signed a 3-year, $123 million deal. Pittsburgh Steelers, that's my team. I'm born, raised, and homegrown from Pittsburgh. So I ain't mad at that contract for him. But I understand why Trey Hendricks is holding out, because he had the most sacks last year in the NFL. He had 17 and a half sacks. And then the Bengals are stingy. They almost as stingy as Jerry Jones, you know, but they don't want to pay, that ownership don't be wanting to pay their players. Who we got? We got Terry McLaurin out of Washington Commanders. You know, I think he's in his 30s, 31. He's trying to get that one last big contract for the Washington Commanders. He's in training camp, but he also is not participating. Who else do we have here? Who else do we have this holding out? Oh, last but not least, Jerry's kids. You know, they want to say America's team, Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones and Michael Parsons is in a contract dispute. It's like Jerry Jones always do his key players like this. It's like he be trying to make them beg, which is crazy, just totally crazy. But in the end, you know, he typically, from what I can recall, he signed all of them. You know, starting back from way back from Emmitt Smith. He paid Emmitt Smith, but he put Emmitt Smith through the ringer. You know, Dak Prescott, you know, put him through the ringer. But see, Michael Parsons, he's fed up. He is the only one that has outwardly came out and requested to be traded. And what's crazy about that, I wonder if Jerry's going to try to call his bluff. Because before the power went out prematurely, and it caused my streaming to go down, or I was able to see on ESPN, is that my Pittsburgh Steelers is trying to get Michael Parsons to come to the Steelers. Oh my. You know, I think this is the most aggressive the Pittsburgh Steelers have been as far as getting veterans to come in. It's like this is the year that we're putting all the chips in the middle of the table. Like we playing poker. We're putting all them chips in the middle of the table. You know, we got Darius Slade from the Philadelphia Eagles. We got that tight end from Miami Dolphins. I love me some cornerback safety, Ramsey, that came from the Los Angeles Rams. You know, can't forget T.J. Metcalf. We got some studs. We definitely got some studs. Come on, you can keep on coming down. Come on, rain. Keep on blessing me. Keep on blessing me. All this rain coming down, nourishing the world. I nourish my spirit. Almost got off track there. What else we got? Last but not least, in the title on my live stream, it was asking, is Shedeur Sanders being disrespected, or are the Cleveland Browns just being cautious with Shedeur? You know, I know, we all know that, you know, he should have been the second quarterback off the board. You know, Cam that went down to Tennessee, Cam Ward that went down to Tennessee, he got drafted first with the Tennessee Titans. Cleveland Browns had the second pick. They chose not to get Travis Hunter, which I think is crazy, but they chose not to get Travis Hunter, you know, and went back and traded picks with the Jacksonville Jaguars so they can get 2 extra first-round picks for next year's draft? But how about, what are you doing for me lately? I understand, with that Deshaun Watson guaranteed contract, that $230 million that the Browns ain't getting nothing from out of him because ever since he signed that contract, got all that guaranteed money, he's been injured, and a real legitimate injury, Achilles tendon, not once but twice, not once but twice. But they're still held accountable for all that money, So, a lot of people saying it's collusion and all the teams took him off the draft board. I'm kind of believing that too because there's no way that Shedeur should have, he was projected to either go first round or right at the beginning of the second round at worst. But then he dropped all the way down to pick 144 and only got a $4.6 million contract. Here I am saying, letting that come out of my mouth, only a $4.6 million contract. I wish I had $1 million, truth be told. But sure, he's blessed. His father's Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, got all that money. Shedeur got a deal with Nike, a deal, I believe, with Delta. He had all that NIL money that he received when he was with the Colorado Buffaloes. So one thing is he's not hurting for money. His brother, Deion Sanders Jr., a.k.a. known as Bucky Jr., Bucky, got well-off media, and they all produce music, Bucky, Shallow, and Shedeur. So they got residual income coming in, which is a blessing. And then what's truly amazing is that you see what the enemy means to harm us, God's going to use what's being used against us and use it for the greater good. So although Shedeur lost all that money not getting drafted in that top first or second round, Shedeur Sanders got the highest, most jersey sales of a rookie ever. And I want you to do your homework and look at how much money he got, So, but as we all know, with Shedeur, their last practice was Saturday. They didn't have practice on Sunday. It was a press conference today, and Shedeur let it be known that he was definitely coming back and be able to practice today. But what threw a monkey wrench in all this is that Kevin Stefanski, the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, he also got interviewed prior to practice, and he stated that Kenny Pickett, who's dealing with a hamstring, previous quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers and a backup quarterback for the Super Bowl Philadelphia Eagles, they say he's dealing with a hamstring and that he would be limited in practice. And then they also said that Dylan Gabriel was dealing with a type hamstring and he was supposed to be limited in practice. So the assumption was that Joe Flacco and finally Shedeur Sanders would finally get first team reps because it seems like they're slow playing Shedeur, even before the shoulder tightness he was having in his arm. And, he told the coach, and for precautionary reasons, we find out that he didn't practice on Saturday. But boy, that lit up all over the internet, all over the airways. Everybody was saying, why are they doing this to him? Why are they doing this to him? Believe me, I was worried too. Let me tell you, I was worried. Are they trying to sabotage and bamboozle him? The world was saying sabotage. My favorite word is bamboozle. Messing us over. So, but later on in that night in the evening, it came out that he did have at least what was put out to public relations, that he did have some shoulder tightness and he was kept out for precautionary reasons, But what I really loved is last night, he posted on, it wasn't Twitter, he posted on Instagram, that Johnny Unitas award that he got for the best quarterback in college for last year when he played for the Colorado Buffaloes. And he was sending a strong message. I got the Johnny Unitas award. I was, received the award for the best quarterback in the college football. He's sending a message. you know. But in God's perfect timing, when it's his time, he gonna shine. You know, they Shedeur didn't even Coach Stefanski, even though he put out that Kenny Pickett would have limited practice and Dylan Gabriel would have limited practice, and again that made an assumption be to the outside world that Flacco and Shedeur would finally get first team reps. That didn't occur. Ladies and gentlemen, that didn't occur. Man, talk about letting the air out of a balloon. This man, all through OTAs, optional training sessions, all through mini training camp and now in camp, they still have yet to allow Shedeur Sanders to practice with the first team. Now, although last week he was with the second team and he was going against the first team defense and he looked really good. At least they saying that he's doing really good, you know, whenever he finally get to go against the first team defense. And that speaks volumes. You know, anytime, Shedeur Sanders, if you ever watch this young man play, he's a big time baller. You give him the ball with 2 minutes left, 9 times out of 10, he's going to win the game for you. Just go back and watch those Colorado games on YouTube. Shedeur Sanders highlights on YouTube from last year when he played for the University of Colorado. But even though, so what happened was that he didn't get any reps on the 7-on-7s. He didn't get any of the insole drill reps, but only Joe Flacco and Shedeur Sanders did get the reps for 11-on-11, which is, to me, more important to get the reps with them. You know, he went 2 for 3 with the 11-on-11s, but he actually was 3 for 3 because he didn't get credit for one of the catches is because the offensive line either jumped off sides or the illegal procedure on the offensive line or the defense jumped off sides, so they blew the whistle dead when the person caught the ball. So he really had a perfect day. Well, I can't say that because in the 11-on-11 drills, he threw a dart down the middle, and it appears if you're able to go back and look at the videotape, it appears that he did not. The guy that was running, he wasn't running hard enough. You know, it just went over the guy's fingertips. You know, he did dive for the ball. So hey, maybe Shedeur had a little rust from having to take that day off on Saturday, got the rest on Sunday, and came back today. But when they did do the 2-minute drills, and even Shedeur's haters in the Cleveland media, they was giving Shedeur's praises and said how he looked really good. And it just looks like they're slow playing him. You know, the Cleveland Browns, for those that are interested in Shedeur Sanders' journey, that today was the last day of open practice for the fans. It got wrapped up today. They travel tomorrow to North Carolina to participate in their joint practice against the Carolina Panthers on Wednesday. Thursday, they do walkthroughs. And then on NFL Network, if you don't know, the Cleveland Browns and the Carolina Panthers, which typically don't nobody care about, but I do because I'm a Shedeur Sanders fan, will be playing. And I know the world is going to be tuned into that game just to see Shedeur get in. I just pray that he gets in and he can show who he really is, and hopefully it opened their eyes because Dylan Gabriel, I'm not going to put him down. He was the 3rd round. Nobody projected him to get drafted that high. Unfortunately, Shedeur Sanders got drafted in the 5th round. So just by the pecking order of where they got drafted, Flacco's first, Kenny Pickett second because he was a previous 1st-round pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Went over to the Philadelphia Eagles with Jalen Hurts, backup quarterback, won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles, And then when Hurts was hurt, Kenny Pickett filled in and did well enough, you know. And then he had the opportunity to become a starting quarterback, and then he accepted the offer that was offered by the Cleveland Browns, and that's why he's here in Cleveland, you know. I just wish all of them the best. I want all of them to stay healthy, even though Pickett's dealing with that pulled hamstring that he did on that 60 or 70-yard run he did last week. And then Dylan Gabriel has some tightness. Shedeur, he likes competition. He wants his work to speak for itself, to shine for itself, to show the world that they ain't better than me, But in God's timing, the glory of God is going to shine through Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns. If you don't mess this one up, you may finally have your franchise quarterback since Bernie Kosar. I believe that was like 19 years ago. So I can still like Shedeur Sanders because I've been following him since Jackson State all the way to Colorado. But I'm black and yellow through and through. So I just want to say again to everybody that has subscribed, thank you for getting me over 100 subscribers. My goal is I need to get to 1,000 subscribers. I think I'm at 110 right now, I believe. God is good. I believe in his word. And I'm telling everybody, nothing is impossible when we walk to be more like Christ. Because when we're connected to the true vine, God will always see us through our storms, our trials, and our obstacles. He's going to make a way when the world thinks there is no way. Trust me. With God, all things shall be possible. So again, Mondays, Fridays, 7 p.m., tap that subscribe button, share the channel with somebody, help Premier Sports Talk grow. The rain's going to a drizzle. God is good. Premier Sports Talk, Monday and Fridays, 7 p.m. Leave some comments. Hit that like button. When you leave comments, you hit that like button. It helps the algorithm within YouTube, and it'll help the channel grow. Thank you.